All right, folks, part two. Here we go. Welcome back, everyone. Told you I'd have the second part of this one done. That way you could watch part one and part two within, I think we're going to do Monday and Friday. I think today is Friday, hopefully. But anyway, again with the rambling, Jay. I'll never stop, and I never understand why. I think it's because I get nervous still doing this. I enjoy doing this. It's a happy nervous, but nervous nonetheless. But anyway, thanks for coming back, folks. I got the second part of my list. I have a little bit more on this one because I do have some honorable mentions that I want to talk about very briefly. I'm not even going to name the Superman actors in these. But let's start the list off. Second part, here we go. So for my first one on this list, again, in no particular order, we got Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. This one was 2010. The premise is borrowed from the 1964 Gardner Fox Justice League of America, number 29 and 30, the story titled Crisis on Earth 3, and the 2000 Grant Morrison JLA Earth 2 graphic novel. In this one, Superman was voiced by Mark Harmon. Yeah, you heard me right. Most of you know him as Gibbs. I knew him from a little movie called Summer School back in the day, and then, of course, NCIS and Gibbs. But he did a fantastic job, just like every other voice actor. For me, there hasn't been a voice actor that did a bad Superman. But, again, personal opinion. As I said in the last video, make sure you check out the rest of the cast on these things. They're phenomenal. They're usually always stacked casts. Now, this one... This one is... There's a super villain in this one that out of the whole team of super villains is my favorite. And that's got to be Batman's counterpart, Owlman, who's voiced by James Woods. Owlman is terrific in this. This one is a great one. Like, check all these out, but if you wanted to start with this one, I wouldn't blame you. So in a parallel universe, lone survivor of Earth's Justice League, Lex Luthor, travels through other world dimensions to join forces with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, The Flash, and John Jones to save his world and its people. But the villainous crime syndicate, controlled by Ultraman, Owlman, and Superwoman, will stop at nothing to maintain their domination. It'll take wits, might, and a sacrifice to defeat these unforgiving enemies. Man, this one was so good. Like I said, they're all good, and I'm not biased towards any of them. This one was really good. I want to say, honestly, this was the first DC animated one that I watched. And then I was like, oh, wow, they have these other ones. I went out and started watching the older ones. I believe this was the first one that I watched. Really enjoyed it. Really got me into the DC animated universe movies. Next one I got on my list is Death of Superman from 2018. This one actually had a limited theatrical run in 2019. But this is based off the comic of the same name and the second animated adaptation. The first one being from the first part of the video, Superman Doomsday. The Superman in this one was voiced by Jerry O'Connell. Again, great job. It features the same, the same fight between Superman and Doomsday, but it really fleshes out the story, and even leads into a sequel, Reign of the Supermen, which is an honorable mention. I'll pop that picture up here. It's an honorable mention on this list. Because Superman really isn't featured as prominently in it. It's the other Supermen. Hank Henshaw, Steel, Superboy. But it's definitely worth mentioning. You should definitely check it out. So this one got a sequel to it. Again, Jerry O'Connell did a great job. I think he voiced Superman a couple of times. Great job. Good watch. On to the next one. Now, this next one was called Superman Man of Tomorrow. Came out in 2020. This is the first installment in what they call the Tomorrowverse. Different art style, but I really like it. It had this very thick black lines around the characters. I really dig it, and I really like the direction that they're going. I know a lot of people were too keen on this one. I couldn't find out what comic this was based off of. I think it just pulls from a bunch of different sources and stories and some other writers' own ideas. But I think they did a fantastic job. In this one, Superman is played by Darren Criss, who, the last person I expected to be Superman, to voice Superman in one of these, Darren Criss, who you might know as Blaine from Glee. But he did a spectacular job. I really enjoy his Superman. I think he's the Superman in the Tomorrowverse for right now. I think there's only been one or two other movies, and he's played Superman. Yeah, I didn't check that, so don't take my word for it. You might want to look that up. This one is sort of an origin story that utilizes Rudy Jones, who later becomes Parasite. I thought that was super cool. It's got Lex, Lobo, and a surprise character. I don't want to spoil the surprise character for you. Most of you probably figure out within the first 10 minutes of the movie. But some of you might be like, well, isn't Parasite and Lobo the surprise? Probably. I probably ruined the whole thing. It's okay. Watch the movie. It's really good. I don't want to give too much of this one away, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can see why people wouldn't, though, because it is an origin story, but for some reason it felt fresher than it usually does. I really think you should give this one a shot. If you've been on the fence, another origin story, this actually is the one I would rather James Gunn kind of use for inspiration, if I'm being totally honest. Again, no hate at all. Let me look at the camera while I say this. No hate at all for All-Star Superman. But I like this better. If this was a book, I probably would have liked this one a little more than All-Star Superman. But I digress. Now, again, I said in the first video, obviously I haven't seen every single DC Animated Universe movie. A lot of them have to do with Batman. And again, I love Batman. But there's so many other characters. And I guess somebody can make the argument, well, what about Superman? There's all these Superman ones too. And I get it. But I think Batman has more of a hold on the DC Animated Universe stuff. But before we get to my last one, I've got some honorable mentions. These are Elseworlds stories that I really dug. First up, we got Justice League Gods and Monsters that came out in 2015. It was a 3-issue miniseries by J.M. DeMatteis, Bruce Timm, and Tony Silas. Hopefully I pronounced those names right. Really cool Elseworld story. Switched around some characters. What if Superman hadn't landed in America, but not quite the place where the next one takes us? Which the next one is Superman Red Sun. This came out in 2020. This is also based off a 3-issue miniseries by Mark Millar. Man, this is what would happen if Superman landed in the Soviet Union instead of America. Super dope story. The movie was I think this is one of the R-rated ones. I can't remember exactly some of the ratings on these, but very cool story. If you're into the Elseworld stuff, which I know that not a lot of people are. There are people that don't like Injustice. They don't like Elseworld stuff. They just like the main thing. And that's cool. If you don't like it, awesome. But for other folks, give it a shot. You might actually like it more than some of the in-continuity stuff. Just saying. Alright. Last but not least, we got Superman vs. the Elite that came out in 2012. This one is actually Jenna's favorite. I want to say if it's not her top, it's definitely in her top 3. But yeah, this one was super cool. This is based on the comic story What's so funny about truth, justice, and the American way in Action Comics number 775 by Joe Kelly, who also adapted the story for the movie. So I thought that was pretty cool. So Superman is played by George Newbern in this one, who played Superman in Justice League Unlimited, Static Shock. You get the idea. So he's kind of up there, him and Tim Daly, kind of legendary voice actors for Superman. So I'm gonna read you the synopsis on this one. When catastrophe strikes, Superman once again rushes into action, but this time he gets some unexpected help from a new squad of superheroes calling themselves the Elite. Comprised of 4 powerful beings and spearheaded by the brash and calculating Manchester Black, this new force brings a raw, no-holds-barred mentality to the battle against evil. With swelling public support of the Elite's vicious methods, the stage is set for a showdown that has Superman feeling outnumbered and outdated. It's an adventure that explodes with a clash of styles and superpowers that begs the question, which will break first, the Man of Steel or his code? That's going to do it for part 2 of my list. I honestly believe that this Superman versus the Elite story is going to play a big part in Superman versus the Authority, which is basically the movie that I think is going to be in the Gunverse, or James Gunn's DCU, whatever you want to call it. Kind of excited for it. I wish it would have been the Elite instead of the Authority, because I like Manchester Black, and there's a guy called the Hat in this one. But whatever, James Gunn is going to do what he wants to do, so we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Hey folks, thanks for joining me for part 2 of this list. I had a great time doing it, although it did drive me kind of crazy trying to pick and choose which ones I actually left out, which ones I brought in. I wish I could have put every single thing on here, but I tried to make the list as small as possible to make the video not an hour and a half long. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Also, click the bell for notifications so you can be notified anytime we drop something. We appreciate you. You take care. Hold your loved ones tight, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.